What surprised you about that process?
Well, the big thing for me that was uncovered during the whole process was how alone I actually felt. That one hit hard. It's always been like, okay, like maybe I'm not good enough or something like that. But a lot of it was like how lonely I actually felt. That was like a big thing that I never knew. And at the same time, during the experience, I don't know, maybe I'm jumping ahead, but like it also pointed out that I was never alone. Knowing that was just like huge eye opener.
This is your invitation. Become the alchemist of your life. You decode your heaven on earth and go through the alchemical process. The alchemist is a master of himself so that he can master life. People thought alchemists were turning lead into gold, but they're really crystallizing their soul into form. Alchemize your golden potential. Welcome to the golden life. All right, welcome to a special edition of the Golden Life podcast. I'm David Gilbert, your host, here to help you become the alchemist of your life. And today I have Lucky De Jesus, who went through the alchemical journey recently, and he is going to share his story of turning his deepest pains and fears into gold. So, Lucky, thank you for being here.
No, thanks for having me.
Yeah, and it's been quite the journey. We've known each other for what, about 5 years?
Just about, yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Doesn't actually seem that long, but yeah.
I know, time has been flying by.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to actually go through the alchemical journey and just want to hear from you. Like, how was the experience? How was going on this process of learning the process of transmutation and going on your own inward hero's journey?
Yeah, let's do it.
So the first part is the golden invitation. Now, I know I've planted seeds in you for a little while. How long would you say it's been?
It's been, quite a while. I would say, I think just getting to know you, right? In regards to when we took our trip up to Vegas, for the MDK project, just getting to know you there. And then, me reaching out to you, knowing that you had this like shop in regards to, spirituality.
Yeah. The meditation supply store.
Yeah.
Back in the day.
Yeah. So there's always this kind of like draw to you in regards to, just your essence, I'd say. So, and then started to work with you in producing your podcast.
Yep.
So all the little seeds, as you mentioned, were kind of like, all right, well, this is really interesting. And I was like, how can I get more of this? Yeah. So that was really created that interest, the curiosity, and really going through the process myself. Because I know it was something that I needed to do and wanted to do, but just didn't know how to go about doing it.
Yeah, and talk about that a little bit more. Like, where were you in life, right? Because we get these opportunities. The universe will send us little surprises, and usually we tend to refuse the call, right? And then something happens, and we're in some place where we're like, okay, we know we got to shift. So what was that for you?
There was a lot that was really going on in that chapter of my life. A lot of changing or new chapters. Essentially, it was like one chapter after another. Really just trying to find myself. Right. So I started, just a little history is, I worked as a nurse for a good 10, 12 years, just getting burnt out from that. Opened up my own fitness studio and then was excited because I was seeing awesome results with my clients. I'm like, all right, this is going to be huge. I'm going to be, a big player in the industry, in my community. And then COVID hit.
Yep.
Around that same time, that's when I got to know you a little bit through the project and whatnot. And just one after another, I'm like, things weren't going the way I was hoping for. So I'm like, all right, something has to change, but there's something I know that's within me that needs to change first. And, after listening through all those podcasts and, editing through a lot of them, it was kind of like almost one-on-one coaching, but I'm like, I need the actual coaching, the experience. Yeah. So, was really unsure of the whole thing. And to be honest, was nervous about it. Just because I don't know what I was going to get myself into or discover. And that was the biggest hesitation there.
Yeah. So the fear of the unknown.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah.
And to reflect on your story, right? It's so easy. There's endless information nowadays, and it's easy to absorb that information. You're literally editing the videos and getting to take everything in, but it's another one to like walk the journey and like jump into that unknown and go through that process.
Oh yeah. It's, all those, that's why I love doing what I do with, with working with people like you, is I get those little nuggets, but at the same time, it's like, I want more of it. Like I need that one-on-one. So yeah, eventually, we were talking and you threw out a offer I couldn't refuse. I'm like, all right, let's make it happen.
Yeah. All right. So talk about the next steps. You have that initial pull, but hesitation because you have no idea what it involves. When you said yes, but kind of that in between before we started actually working together, what was that, the journey to the adventure even look like?
Before we started working, I know there was, like you said, there was that calling. Like there was something that I knew that I was meant for, something greater. But at the same time, I could only see maybe 1 or 2 feet ahead of me.
Yeah.
And it's super unclear and a lot of hesitation before I really took the big leap forward. Yeah. And I knew there was something out there. I saw the shining object out in the distance, but it's like, I don't know what's there, Yeah. And so I started basically just, taking a few steps forward and back. I'm like, I don't know if that's the way to go. So I'm kind of like treading water in a sense where it's like, I know I have to go somewhere, but I don't know where to start.
Yeah. Yeah. And you said you had some hesitation even to saying yes. Once you said yes and knew we were about to have this journey, like did more stuff to come up to the surface?
Yeah, I would say it's just more of like, what are we going to discover? I wasn't sure what I was going to find or what was going to come out, especially, being vulnerable in front of you. But after the relationship that we've built through the 5 years or so, I'm like, all right, like, why am I nervous? If anyone, this is the person I can trust versus like Googling some dude and then going through stranger. That whole, So,
having a horrible journey.
It just made sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. And I do also want to highlight, you reap what you sow. So like for you, you knew that you kept trying to make these changes and kept getting stuck. So it comes to a point where if you're like, I'm going to grow corn and you keep trying to grow corn, but you're getting, I don't know, strawberries. It's like, okay, something internally needs to shift. Like, why am I not getting these results if I'm committed to creating these results, right? So something internally needs to shift. And just want to highlight, that was like your big driver of like, okay, like, just like, what is it? What is it do I got to find that needs to shift? Because I actually have no idea.
Yeah.
And that can be scary too.
Oh, yeah.
When it's just pure unknown, I just see pure blackness, right? Jumping in.
Yeah.
So after that, this is kind of going to meeting the Alchemist. You knew me for a while, but then meeting the Alchemist and you get here, we started to jump into the lead, finding those limiting beliefs. And when you come here, we meet by the fire. Tell me a little bit more. What was going through your mind? What like came up in the session, the deep dive session before we even got there that surprised you? Tell me about that.
Was a deep dive session what, like the Zoom call?
Yeah, the 2-hour Zoom call beforehand.
Honestly, I don't remember much of it. Walk me through. What did we go through that one again?
Yeah, that's the first part where the fire comes. Whatever limiting beliefs, like I reflect back your story and we uncover all those limiting beliefs. And we start to solidify the lead that you're going to transmute when you're there in the 2.5 days together.
I knew I was the thing that was in the way, and you kind of help unpack that. But I knew that at the same time, that was like, okay, I'm standing my own way. And there's a lot of that self-doubt. And I think you also painted the picture of like, what could it be like if I wasn't in the way? So that gave me like an insight. I'm like, all right, well, just that 2 hours in itself, I'm like, this is huge. I'm sure there's a lot more involved in it, or from that 2 hour, I just can't really remember. Yeah. But I knew it was very impactful. I'm like, all right, if this was just 2 hours over a Zoom call, like how much more in a 3-day experience? Yeah. So then that got me really excited.
You saw some of the gold, right?
Yeah.
Of like jumping into the unknown and seeing what's on the other side, and got a taste of. Because at the end, we always end by like, if you were free from those limiting beliefs, how would you feel? And I know, I'll let you speak first, actually. I know what the consistent answer is, but like, how did you feel when you kind of touched that space brought the beliefs to the surface, saw them, and was able to release them?
A big sigh of relief. Like, it made me realize that there was so much more, but at the same time, it's like, why did I hold on to them for so long? And I'll be honest, it's an ongoing process, right? And it's not like going. Once you're done with the experience, it's like you're a whole new person. It's a constant work that you have to do.
Yeah.
And, but knowing that it's easy, you could just throw it back, give it away, acknowledge that it was there, appreciate the feelings that it gave you, even though it may have been negative, but at the same time, it's like, hey, you're human. This is what it feels like. But to just let it go, that was huge. That was huge.
Yeah, that's it. Like to acknowledge it's going to be part of you. It's part of being human. And to what you said, like the real process of letting go is to honor it in some form and realize it was a winning strategy. Like it was an unconscious behavior adaptation that helped you survive and get through life. So when you can see that, you can like, oh, wow, it's actually beautiful. It made me who I am today. But that doesn't serve me if I'm going to be my true self, my true essence, and unleash my inner gold. So we went through that process. You got to feel what it's like, I consider it our true nature when we're beyond limiting beliefs, and then like, oh, wow, I feel a little lighter. I feel free. I feel like positive energy rising up in me. And that's before the journey. But then you make it out here. We have the fireside chat, and then we jump into, again, kind of jumping into the waters of emotions and the limiting beliefs to really uncover that lead. What surprised you about that process?
Well, the big thing for me that was uncovered during the whole process was how alone I actually felt. That one hit hard. It's always been like, okay, like maybe I'm not good enough or something like that. But a lot of it was like how lonely I actually felt. That was like a big thing that I never knew. And at the same time, during the experience, I don't know, maybe I'm jumping ahead, but like it also pointed out that I was never alone. Knowing that was just like huge eye opener. Like that feeling of being alone, it was something that I felt like I put on myself, or that was really what I put on myself. It wasn't that I was alone. It was just like I saw it differently.
Yeah. Well, I can tie too, because that was one of your beliefs of how a parent figure showed up and caused you to feel like it was all on your own. And then, we get in these subconscious boxes, and then we have these feelings, and especially as kids, we don't know how to deal with them, so we repress them away. And then it becomes like the unknown. Like we don't even want to look at those scary feelings. Yeah. And the phase 2 is dissolution. And dissolution is water. And water is a symbol for our emotions. So it's literally like, how do we jump into those emotions? Realizing some of those scary ones, like pure loneliness, if you feel it fully for 90 seconds, at least for you, how was it after you felt it fully?
Of being lonely, or
just like after? The strong emotions that were kind of scary to jump into? Like, I know I pushed you in. Yeah. So how was that, feeling those emotions?
Dude, feeling that emotion like really sucked. Like, yeah, it hurt to be in it. Realizing now it's actually how I felt. Yeah. And it was, but at the same time, as I said, it brought it to the point where it's like, okay, that's what it is. Now, at least I can focus on correcting that or making the change to understand that.
Yeah. And like a balloon that's filled up and pushed underneath the water, you got to deflate that balloon to really move on. Yeah. So right after that, we went from dissolution, the plunge, into breath work. How was that breath work journey for you?
That was a really cool experience. Yeah. I think the big thing that you did tell me at the very beginning was like, hey, just so you know, when we do this breath work, your hands we call them crab hands or something. And in my head, I'm like, what the heck? Like, what is he talking about? I'm like, whatever. Like, okay, it's not going to happen to me. And sure enough, like it happened. I'm like, what the heck is going on? But But for the most part, that was the craziest part, is going through the guided breath work,
Yeah.
and kind of going through the different levels that you experience in the breath work.
Yeah.
And then your own interpretation of what you're experiencing was amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for some context, that was your first breathwork journey.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was intense.
Yeah.
I thought like I was vibrating and like maybe having like a seizure on the ground, just the way I was feeling. Right.
Yeah.
And then afterwards I asked David, I'm like, hey, was I moving a lot? Like, what was going on? He's like, no, you're pretty still. Yeah. And it got to a point where I felt like my whole body was vibrating.
Yeah.
Never experienced that before. I thought like what was going on, but it was intense.
Yeah.
Like it was very intense.
Yeah. And did you say you were able to feel the space beyond all the beliefs and story, and just kind of as a being, an energetic being, able to feel that?
The vibrations was that sign, is that frequency, like being able to, I think, harmonize with that.
Yeah.
And then just take it.
Yeah.
Like that was, I think that was the big key for me. It's like, they say frequencies or vibrations will match each other.
Yeah.
Right. So for me to experience it firsthand in regards to getting that very, very intense vibration, I'm like, okay, there's really something to this.
Yeah. Like from my perspective, that's like when you get beyond the mind and get to feel who you are as an energetic being. And like in the book, that's the moment where the hero's jumping into the water and his breath is getting hot and heavy and everything's all getting crazy. And then it's just beyond everything. That like, oh. So we go through that process, and then we have the key to the heart, going into the next day. And how was that? How was opening up a chest, realizing that you had all this lock and key around your heart, this lead around your heart, and then from there also stepping into grabbing lead to symbolize the lead that we uncovered, and doing that walk to the sacred space of Sunset Cliffs?
So I've, in a way, done it indirectly, right? Through one of, working with you and kind of get footage of that. But to do it in person and go through it yourself, picking up the actual lead or two or whatever, you end up doing. But that symbolism of just carrying something and walking in silence to the cliff allowed it to kind of sink in. Just like, these are things that you're carrying, And I think one thing you asked me before I opened it, it's like, what's one word that like comes into mind? And I don't know what it was, but it just beast. And I didn't know what it meant, until later during the experience. But I'm like, beast, like why? Like it makes no sense right now. Like, what is this? But it kept bothering me. I'm like, what is this? Like he said, pick a word or think of a word that just comes to mind. Yeah. But going to the beach, and it was just a perfect day. It was just a perfect day. It was a lot more emotional than I thought it would be. Yeah. Just the symbolism of throwing the lead back to the ocean, giving it back to Mother Nature. Yeah.
And how was that reconnecting with Mother Earth?
It was nice. Like, just like motherly love, right? Just having that feeling of, hey, like, I know you're hurting, but let me just hold you. Like, maybe there's nothing I can do about it, but just let me hold you to make sure that you're safe. Yeah. So that's the feeling I got. Yeah. I was like, it's okay. Yeah. Like, we'll work it. We'll work through this together.
Yeah. Beautiful. And that's the voice of Mother Earth chapter. It's actually mixed in. You get all the secrets and mixed in earlier in the journey. But it's also the ascension to the peak. So anything else about that time? We did a meditation where you got to go to the peak, but anything else during that time that you want to share?
It was just nice to be out in nature, especially on a nice day like that. And I think we got greeted by a sea lion or something like that too. Yep. But it was just a perfect spot. And there was no one around us. It was like meant to be that day. Yeah. So, because I know the last couple times we went out there, it was pretty busy and there's people kind of crowding around, but we had our own spot. Yeah. And it was just like, it was perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah. And then we came back, and this is where we jump into some practical things around the setting sun and rising moon, right? The inner masculine and feminine and how to bring that into balance. Any big insights that stood out from that you took away?
You know, part of doing what I do is I get to get the insights, right? So we were talking about creating the flow and the calendars. So there was one podcast I was editing of yours about creating those peaks.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I got to do this. And I was like, it's so simple to do, right? Yeah. And you helping me figure out like where like my peak performance was. Like I knew I was more of a night owl, but then you're like, okay, how can we make this more of a way that works into your system so you are getting into that flow a little more? And that's really helped kind of, you know, being a dad allowed me to find time in my day to make it work. Like it was, I didn't know why I was working at night, but it kind of helped bring more of a clarity to it. Like it makes sense. That's why, like, as soon as my kids are asleep, I'm here and I'm still flowing till like 2:00 in the morning, like editing, and it's easy, you know. But if I try to do it during the day, something that would take me, say, 30 minutes to do would take me like 3 or 4 hours just to do something so simple. Yeah. But once I get into that like peak area or that environment, or that time, things just happen more easily, and making it more of a effort or a commitment to making those more, or to planning more of those peaks.
Which is a big part of, you can be the alchemist of your life by consciously creating peak experiences that make you remember what life is worth living for, that make you appreciate all that you have, or just like memories, you know, created with loved ones, or practically like recharge your body, the things that recharge your mind, body, and soul. And that's part of being the alchemist. Like I create these experiences. I don't just wait for them to happen. Mm-hmm. And you can see, like, if you were to create peaks on a weekly or monthly, quarterly basis, like, you know, your life's going to be good because we're going to get the valleys. And kind of going from valleys into meeting the dragon, you got to meet your dragon during the heart opening ceremony. So how was the heart opening ceremony for you?
Well, that ceremony was unbelievable. Yeah, no, that was something I've never experienced before, and I thought it was phenomenal. Yeah, in regards to going back to earlier about the key and the word beast, I did not know what that meant. Yeah, I got to meet the beast. Yeah. And for me, it was like a, how do I describe it? Like a smoky fox entity, I'd say, ghostly kind of figure, you know, having 2 tails and stuff. Yeah, so it was a very, like, if, you know, I forgot the name of it, but it's a Japanese kind of like folklore. They had like 9 tails and stuff like that. But for me, it was a 2-tailed smoky gray fox. Yeah. And it just kept talking to me like, hey, like, how come you left me alone? Like, why am I kind of like tucked away in the corner? Mm-hmm. And I knew there was moments in my life that I can remember it coming out, just getting very angry, just very aggressive. Yeah. And it was scary because I didn't know what it was, you know, and it only came out on times when I needed to. But like at the same time, it scared me because I didn't know how to control it. Like, where is this coming from? Like,
for context, the shadow, right? The shadow side, that part of Lucky, you know, in the deep dive, you're like, I have this rage in me, and it, like, I'm afraid of it coming out. And then during the heart opening ceremony, you got to sit there and just on a stage, shadow, come here, and look at that dragon straight in the eyes. Yeah.
I had a chance to ask it questions and all that stuff, and they're like, well, I'm here to help you. Like, I'm never here to put you in any sort of danger or harm yourself. I'm here to give you the energy and the boost that you need to go through with whatever you need to go through. So he was confused, or the fox was confused of like, why'd you lock me away? So that key, going back to earlier, was me unlocking the beast. Yes. And now I see it. Yourself. Yeah. And now I see it as a protector of me and my family. And there's a couple times where I just see it as like, you know, through that opening heart ceremony, the fox just wrapping itself around my family, around the house, and it's just there for protection. Yeah. And just company.
Yeah. Like so beautifully put, like your greatest fear can actually be your biggest ally.
Yeah.
And what'd you do? You opened up your heart to it. You said, come here, and like shine the light of your awareness on it, and then realize, oh wow, this is like my power. This is like a whole nother part of me that I kind of pushed away because I was just afraid to look at, because it's natural. Like we all have those parts in us, but you brought that part back into your heart, and just like the dragon that, you know, goes down and disappears, like you rose as this phoenix with this new superpower inside of you that you can access anytime.
Yeah. And then another thing too with that is my wife, she loves foxes. And it was kind of like an epiphany. I'm like, oh shit, like I'm my wife's fox, you know? So that night I did end up calling her, and she was kind of like confused with what I was saying. But at the same time, I told her what happened. And she's like, oh, okay. Like it made sense. And then funny enough, she had a little gray fox.
Yeah, of course.
One out of all of her little fox collection, she had one little gray fox. The rest of them were, you know, the traditional red fox, right? But one little fox with that was all gray.
Yep.
So I'm like, all right.
That's the magic right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then that leads into the final day, which is the sacred return. You know, really the integration process and how to bring this back to your community and like just step into being that authentic version of yourself. So how was that final day for you?
It was just nice and relaxing. Kind of a lot, because the first 2 days were just very taxing and exhausting. Yeah. A lot more exhausting than I thought it would be. But that last day where we did some more breath work, we stretched it out. We did it outside, which was nice. Again, a perfect day. Yeah. So it was just a good kind of almost like recovery day. Yep. And it was just relaxing. You know, a time where you could just let loose. Yeah. You know.
That's exactly what it is, right? When we go through these big evolutions, transformation is messy. Transformation hurts. It's like growing pains as a teenager, right? When you have those growth spurts, like it freaking hurts. So the last day integration is sometimes our mind transforms, and then we can even release a lot of emotion. And then, like, you know, I say our mental body, physical body, and emotional body, like those can all transform. But when it comes to our physical body, like the nervous system has to catch up. So that's the process of doing breath work, body work, getting into the cold bath. And then spiritually, as a being of frequency, you can take ownership of the declarations of who you are and what you stand up for in this life.
Yeah. And the declaration part was pretty cool. Initially, when you're reading out, so we were doing the ice bath, and you're basically reading out my declaration. I'm like, oh, that's cool. That's what he is interpreting of me. And afterwards, I asked him, like, where'd you get all that? And you basically said, you said this yourself. I just wrote it down. Yeah. And it was very cool. Yeah. Just the things that were coming out during the opening heart ceremony, where you can kind of see things from a different point of view. Yeah. You're pulling yourself away from you and just looking at yourself as a whole. Yeah. And when you're taking those notes, I thought it was just more of like, oh, this is what I think Lucky is, or what he's saying. No, this is something that you or I said about myself. I think the big thing that was like, whoa, was my family name, De Jesus. Yep. You know, and what it means is that we live on our own terms. Yeah. And that makes so much sense and super powerful. If you know my dad, he's one of those, he likes to say, like, it's not what you like, it's what I like. Yeah. You know? But I feel like the way it was I guess I said it, was that, you know, we live life on our own terms. Yeah. You know, we make things happen. Yeah. Which was powerful. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the power of kind of getting on beyond your own perspective, and then opening up your heart is like, whoa, you could see things from this new viewpoint, or you could take in the full view, and then it's like almost like a reframe of your perspective, right? That's been part of your guys' legacy this whole time, but it was just crystal clear, and you were like, yes, that is us.
Mm-hmm. I guess I called myself the conductor too, which I think sounds pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Playing music and helping others bring out their music. And that's the mythopoetic identity, right? We have this limited version of who we think we are based on the ego or personality self. And it's like, I do these things. Because I do these things, I'm a whatever father, or I'm this kind of person who does this kind of work. But it's like, who are you as a being? Like, what gift as a soul are you bringing to this? And art you're creating. And that was so beautifully highlighted.
The feedback that I've gotten was like, you know how to work through things and make it flow well. Even, doing the project or working the back end of the project or the Squire, which are phenomenal programs. And even before that, I would always plan trips with my friends and just have it timed out perfectly, and I'm like, maybe I should be an event planner or something, but like it makes complete sense where a conductor, I try when I speak about life and getting stuff planned out, it's not about balance, because if you put something on a scale, if they're even, it's net zero. So you're not going anywhere. But with harmony, and this is where the conductor comes from, is you're conducting an orchestra. Each group of instruments have their own time to shine. And by doing so, you produce this beautiful piece of art. But if you try to have everyone have a certain or balanced time, it's going to be very boring because it's balanced. So harmony is really what we're all seeking for. At least that's what I believe in. It's harmony. It's not so much of balance.
Yeah, and I'd add flourishing. We just want to flourish, right? And that's what happens when we transmute this lead of pain or fear or trauma or whatever it is that's holding you back, and turn that into your gold and just unleash your true essence, being that conductor and unleashing that into the world. So after coming home and settling and integrating, what have been some of the biggest changes or transformations you've been able to experience?
A lot of it was just like more appreciation for my wife. I've always loved her. That was never a question, but I wanted to show it more. So that was really big for that. And then just really appreciating the struggles. Like I said earlier, it doesn't end after your 3 days. It's still a constant struggle. But knowing you have those those frameworks and tools to really work you through it, and again, appreciate and just let it go and learn from it a lot quicker. That was huge for me too. So, and then just a little more on the confidence side, saying like, this is who you are. And, referring back to your declaration, like, I'm the conductor. I live life on my own terms, and that's what I'm doing. So it allows me to appreciate where I am at in life, be more present with the family, also not be so hard on myself. There's still moments, right? Like, what the fuck am I doing? But then I have that moment where I'm like, all right, let's talk with the gray fox. Like, hey, what's going on? Like, where can I go from here? And that's been powerful, because I've sat down a few times here and there, a good handful of times, where I'm like, all right, Fox, like, what's my next step? Like, why am I struggling right now? Like, what's going on? And then just making the time for myself to reflect on that.
So I'm hearing more joy in the journey. Appreciating that you can't rush the unfolding of your true self, and that we know we're just going to have alchemical journey after alchemical journey through life. So how do we do it with more grace? And then acknowledging the power that you have, and like how to tap into the intuition and your higher self to kind of guide you from here on out.
100%. I feel like this should be like an annual thing, to be honest, or at least something of that sort, because if you go too long, then I feel like you'll start to lose the direction you want to go. The path is always going to be changing, and then you may end up in the fog for a bit. So I think having something like this, maybe every year, every other year, or something of that sort, just to kind of bring you back to center, and kind of clear out that fog, so that way at least, okay, I see that coming up. Let me get ready for it. And then sure enough, it can get lost here and there every now and then. But
that's part of the game.
It's like, oh, that's interesting. Like, what's that over there? And jump off the trail for a bit, and you're just like, oh shit, I'm lost again. But no, it was a phenomenal journey. It was something that I don't know why I waited so long.
No.
You know, when I told you, I was like, oh, I was afraid of my emotions. You're like, oh, emotions, are they really that scary? I'm like, fucking hey, dude, you're such a dick. But no, it was honestly like, it was one of those, when you make the leap, I think that's when you're ready to move forward.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, you can't force it.
Yep.
And you just have to listen to yourself in regards to like, okay, is it a good time for me to go?
Yeah.
And I think I applaud you for that too, because you never pushed it on me.
No.
You allowed me to take the time to do it.
No.
You know, you did plant those seeds and stuff like that. And when working with the podcast and seeing all those awesome tidbits and gold nuggets I was pulling from it, but you never pushed it like, hey, when is it your turn? When is it your turn? I'm like, it was never that. It was like, okay, when you're ready, I'm here.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you for that.
Absolutely. I don't take full credit because part of it is the universe working in alignment, right? Like surrendering to when somebody's ready, because it's massive transformation. Mm-hmm. Like you are no longer who you came in as. And I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but your worldview completely shatters.
Yeah.
And is transformed.
Yeah.
So it's not something to take lightly, but it's one of those testaments. Whenever you take the leap into the unknown, like the universe is happy to catch you. Right. And that right mentor figure will pop in, or just the guide for the journey will pop in. And then like this journey, I'm with you every step of the way. So yeah. So anybody who's on the fence, who feels like that pull of like, this sounds interesting, I feel like it is for me, but they feel that hesitation where you were, 6 months ago, what do you have to say to them? It's
not going to hurt you. You know, it's one of those things that it all comes down to your intent. The reason why you want to do something like this. And the reason why you're listening to his podcast is there's an intent for you to get better, for you to change your lead into gold, right? So if you come in with that mindset of like, okay, I do want to make myself better, I want to dive 100% into this and not hold back, then you're going to get the best experience. If you're going to come in to his experience with skepticism and full guard up, you're not really going to benefit from it. So when you're ready to let that all go and just allow him to guide you through the process, that is the perfect time to do so. Because that was a big thing for me. It's like, all right, well, I'm going to, I wasn't ready to. When you're ready for it, you'll know.
Yeah.
And that's the time to leap in and go head first and not look back.
I love that. And that is a requirement once you get here. I will ask you, are you going to totally commit yet fully surrender? Because if you can't do that, like, what are we doing? We're not going to be able to jump in. And then to acknowledge the pull. That's what I've told other people too. Like this is about you getting in touch with your intuition. Like this isn't something that is like, can be forced upon. Transformation, even like when you go home, right? You can't force the transformation you've had onto a loved one. Like you have to invite them into it. So
yeah, and that's definitely something I want to do with my wife, with your couples experience. So again, I've laid out some seeds, and hopefully when she's ready, we'll end up doing something like this together. As a couple. So I'm excited for that, but that's on when she's ready.
Yep. And the more that you embody the transformation that you occurred, like you experience, right, the more it invites like people to see it and then want it from their heart or intuition. So keep doing what you're doing. I can acknowledge I've seen a whole nother level of fire and confidence in you, and I'm excited to see what happens down the road.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Lucky, for being here, and check out Lucky's work. He is the one who's been doing the podcast the whole time. So see the show notes to get in touch with Lucky, and I highly recommend working with Lucky.
Appreciate it, David.
Thank you.